Welcome back to Recruiter Fuel. From recruiters to recruiters. The whole concept behind Recruiter Fuel is really to address some of the challenges that we all deal with, to try to set up a system to avoid those challenges, and then to leave you with one or two practical pieces of information that you can take back and employ right now. I hope you're getting some value out of some of the previous episodes. We are in episode 4 in our 2021 calendar year. And I want to continue on the conversation we had in the last episode. We started to talk about kind of the branding piece of our LinkedIn profiles as recruiters. How do we get people attracted to us as recruiters when we reach out to them? And I want to continue that thought, and I wanted to address myth number 3 that I have in the book, Recruiting Sucks, but It Doesn't Have to. If you haven't received a copy of the book, make sure you do. You can find it on Amazon. You can go to recruitingsucks.com. and it'll take you to Amazon, and there's a number of different ways to get there. But recruiting, or myth number 3 in the book is this: recruiters don't need to be marketers. Let that sink in for a second. As recruiters, do we need to be marketers? The comments I often get are, I got to source candidates all day long. I got to manage these candidates. I got to manage the relationship with my hiring leaders. I don't have time to be a marketer. And here's the thing I want you to think about. It's not about replacing those things with being a marketer. But I've got 3 questions for you. What if you could multiply the relationships that you get in a given day? Would that give you more time to do all those things as a recruiter? Managing your candidates, managing your hiring leader, spending more time talking to people who actually want to talk to you. What if you could get more candidates to respond so you make less outgoing emails, less outgoing emails, because the quality of the way you're reaching out using the principles of marketing is better? Or number 3, what if you could build more credibility with your candidates before you even reach out to them or expect them to return your call? So would these help? As a recruiter, a 28-year recruiter, the answer is obviously yes. The more I can leverage the principles of Marketing 101 to get more people to respond, to get people who wouldn't otherwise respond to me, the more I can do that, the more time I can spend developing candidates, assessing candidates, and managing my customers. So Marketing 101 is not about replacing what we do. It's about giving us more time to do some of the things that are most valuable to us as recruiting professionals. But here's the problem. We've got this mindset thing going on around how we present ourselves, and we're not always using what we can learn from marketers in this class, Marketing 101. And we need to start thinking like marketers. And there's a difference between the typical recruiter's thought process and a marketer's thought process. As recruiters, we're often taught to think about what? The what of this position. I've got a great opportunity for you. Here's the position. Here's what marketers understand. It's not the power of what, it's the power of why. Now imagine being able to take what marketers know about the power of why, the way that our minds are actually wired, and we know this scientifically, we know this statistically, that we get more engaged with somebody based on a why than a what. Another position opening is a what. There's not a whole lot compelling, which is why response rates for most ads these days, most postings on LinkedIn, and most emails and in-mails are continuing to drop, with rare exception. So what do we need to do? How do we change our mindset? How do we get into the mind of our potential candidates to get greater responses and leveraging what we know about marketing? And there's this idea of reframing our mindset. We've got to think about things differently. And I want you to start with yourself as a recruiter. Do you position yourself as, hey, I'm a Starbucks recruiter, I'm a Nike recruiter, I'm a recruiter at the Recruitment Education, and whatever the case is? How do you position yourself? And are you borrowing from the authority of that brand? I'm not saying don't leverage the name, but are you really borrowing all your authority from the brand, the way you position yourself, or are you spending time creating your own authority? Again, the brands carry weight, but it's how we leverage that weight determines what we're building for ourselves. So How do you think about this idea of positioning yourself differently? Well, let's think about this, right? I can be a professional recruiter who happens to work for Starbucks, Nike, you name the brand, or I'm a Starbucks recruiter. Which one's different? Now, it seems very subtle, but if I continue, hey, I'm a professional recruiter who happens to work for whatever, insert brand, insert company, insert whoever you work for, but here's what I do. My focus is on supply chain and logistics, for example. This is what I do. I work with supply chain people all day long to find them the next career, to build the logistics for Starbucks, for Nike, for whatever the brand is. Now, whose brand am I building? Whose authority am I starting to build while still leveraging the brand of the organization we recruit for? Which builds your credibility better? I mean, answer it for yourself. Do you want to continue borrowing on the authority of the brand, or do you want to leverage the authority of the brand and think about building your own brand? I mean, think about your social profile. Do you talk about what you do in your in-mails and emails? Do you talk about your brand and what you do to potentially solve that person's pain? It's no longer what, I'm a Starbucks recruiter. It's a why. I just happen to work for Starbucks, but here's what I do and why I do it. There's a different positioning. So we've got to start by reframing our own mindset. And as a result of that, we begin to reframe the mindset of our candidates. What we're trying to do with potential candidates we reach out to is create an influence with them. The difference between you reaching out to them and your recruiter next to you reaching out to that same person, who they respond back to if they choose one over the other. And this is the situation candidates are in because they're being bombarded by all of us as recruiters. Who do they choose to respond back to? The person that connects with them differently, the person that connects emotionally, and it's about the brand that they've created to create that level of influence. So the typical responses, right? I write these down because I get them all the time. Have I got a great opportunity for you? Look, earlier in my career, I use that same thing. Have I got the best opportunity for you? Well, what recruiter's going to say, I've got a really crappy opportunity for you? They're all the same, right? Your profile makes you the perfect candidate. Nobody's profile makes them the perfect candidate. It may make them an interesting candidate, but there's no profile that's a perfect candidate. They know what you're doing at that point. You were referred confidentially. That might be the case, but that seems to have been overused. And who do you know for this great job? In essence, they're thinking, well, why should I care? Because we have no influence with them at that particular point. We have got to reframe our mindset on how we position marketing. We have got to reframe the mindset of the candidate. Instead of reaching out and saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody for this VP of sales. That's the what. What's the why behind that position? And I'm not talking about what's on a job description. What's the why behind the company that you're representing? We know people get emotionally bought in. You have greater influence with somebody based on the why over the actual what. I mean, think about Apple for a second. They don't focus on just what the iPhone is. They focus on what it does and why it's important. The ability for you and I to connect. The ability for you to stay connected to your friends. That's a powerful emotional why versus, hey, it's something you can make a call off of. It's something that you can send a text on. That is not what they position. Go back and look at some of the Apple brands, some of the Apple branded videos that are out there. Why? Think about it from this perspective. Why is that position that you're recruiting for compelling to the person? What pain is it solving for that person? The question is, do you know the pain of that particular individual? Why is your position uniquely created to give them a different level of pleasure than they may have now? Branding is all about your ability to influence. Building on your own brand, as we talked about in both last episode and this episode, is critical. Now, there is a ton of information to cover that I just can't get to here. I've given you a couple of nuggets, but I want to give you a couple of free resources. Number one, is there's a webinar that is on the Recruitment Education Institute platform. It's free to go to. It's Funnel Hacking for Recruiters, which gets really in depth on how to leverage the why, exactly what to do step by step by step. Go to recruitmentedu.com/course/funnel hacking. The second free resource is what I call candidate-focused recruiting. It's what's in it for the candidate, not what's in it for you. It's taking the principles of Marketing 101 and applying to what we do as recruiters day in and day out. The URL for that is recruitmentedu.com/course/candidate-focused recruiting. That's a little bit longer, but in that one I talk about how do we really communicate a message. The second one is how do we capture their permission to actually engage with them? How do we leverage Marketing 101 to reframe and change their mindset to actually want to connect with us? How do we compel them to respond back? And then going through the process of gaining commitment. They're both free. Both of those courses are free. Like as I said on the onset of this is all about recruiters supporting recruiters. This is a community of professional recruiters who want to help other professional recruiters to increase the credibility of our trade, to increase our effectiveness. If you've got something that you think we should share with the community, please send me a message, and if appropriate, we'll have you on the show and share that information with the broader community. And if you have an obstacle, if you have an issue that you're experiencing, go ahead and reach out to me. Send it to me via LinkedIn. You can respond to slois@recruitmentedu.com. You can do it right here on the Recruiter Fuel YouTube page. You just click the button and we'll figure out how to get it to me. But this is all about recruiters helping recruiters. This is all about community, and I'm glad you're part of it. Welcome to the community.